Hi everyone, welcome to this week of CR184 teaching HAS from Prep to Year 3, and I just thought I'd talk through the PowerPoint for this week and the lecture and what's required of you to hopefully help you in knowing what to do for this module. So this module is covering two topics. One is about integrating humanities and social sciences into other subject areas, and the other topic we're looking at is incorporating Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander perspectives. So I'm just going to switch through the PowerPoint. I won't read everything, but just give you an overview of what is required for this week. These first few slides are going to outline what the purpose of this week is, the learning outcomes. So for today, this week it's what I mentioned about integration and cross-curricular priorities, as well as just getting you started to think about assessment task 3. Before you start, this week, please go to your textbook and read chapters 7 and 9. That's good background reading about integration. There are some slides here for you to look through all about what an integrated curriculum is. In a nutshell, it is how do we combine topics from HAS either with each other, so history and geography, for example, or how do we combine HAS subjects with others, for example, history with English. Why we integrate, there's some information about the benefits of that here and in your textbook chapter. It's really important that you cover the textbook chapter because what I've provided you here are really just summary dot points. Often, particularly in primary school, you will find that HAS is integrated with other subject areas, and that's probably the most common way integration happens. Also how to integrate and what are the trademarks of good integration, because it's not useful if we're not actually covering the content properly from the curriculum. It's no point just picking some theme or topic that sounds fun. It needs to be authentic. It needs to be connected to the curriculum. It needs to be addressing all the learning content and skills. It needs to be relevant and valid in regards to your students. So the first activity you're going to do this week is a reading about integration. And this comes from the Queensland College of Teachers, the Queensland Curriculum Authority. And I'm just going to flick to Moodle now just to show you where to find that. Just give me a second. Here we go. So this is our Moodle page. Just a reminder that these are the modules that we should have covered already, all the way up to geography, and week 6 is where we're up to now. So if I open that up, you'll find this is the study guide. That's just an outline of what you need to do this week, and the PowerPoint, which I'm showing you now for you to go to. This student PowerPoint template, you will need to download that and use that to contribute your activities for this week and put it onto the forum. Later in the lecture, there will be an activity which asks you to choose one of these units of study and do some looking at those. So that's where they're located. I've told you about the reading. So that's the textbook reading. The other readings is where this one, Enacting Australian Curriculum, Making Connections for Quality Learning, is the one that I want you to read, and then you'll answer on your PowerPoint, student PowerPoint template located there. You will answer some questions, so I'll just find that for you now. So this is the template. Activity 1, what is integration? You'll do that reading, answer these questions on each slide. Why should we integrate? How do we integrate? Key points that are relevant for yourself, for beginning teachers. Then it goes on to activity 2. So I'll just go back to our PowerPoint. Activity 1 is your reading. Activity 2 is looking at examples of integration. So I've also put the links here in the PowerPoint slide. When you open up each of these, they connect to the Australian curriculum. Just pick one. I've put a few different ones. Actually, I think there's a fourth one on Moodle, if you'd like to choose that one. What I want you to do when you're looking at, when you've chosen your example, is answer these questions. What subjects are integrated? What inquiry question or questions are addressed? And what learning outcomes are achieved? Then, what's one example of an activity from this unit of study which demonstrates cross-curricular integration? So choose one of the activities they outline and explain how it links to other subjects or one subject. And then come up with another suggestion of your own. What's an additional way you could integrate this with something else? It could be anything. It could be going to the visual arts curriculum and connecting it to a geography unit where they're creating artworks relating to that topic, or something like that. Or maybe it connects to science if you're looking at environments and living things in geography. So that's for you to investigate and be thinking, how could I integrate this myself in the classroom? I'll come back to this assessment task 3. So back to your PowerPoint for today. These are the same questions we just talked through from the student PowerPoint. And the stages of inquiry. So your task in task 3, assessment task 3, asks you to identify and plan a series of lessons, so 5 lessons, so one for each of those stages that relates to either history or geography or civics and citizenship. So that's just a little refresher and reminder. Now we're moving on to the next focus of this module. So we've looked at integration. Now I'm shifting to talk about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander perspectives, which is another aspect that you're going to need to cover in your assignment in task 3. So we've seen this diagram before. It just shows, it's a visual representation of how all the aspects of the Australian curriculum fit together. And HASS is these red subjects down here: history, geography, civics and citizenship, and for secondary students it includes economics and business. And then we have all these different general capabilities that we want students to develop: literacy, numeracy, ICT, etc. And these 3 cross-curriculum priorities. So sustainability, learning about Australia and its engagement with our neighbours in Asia, and all about our history and culture in terms of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. So these cross-curriculum priorities are important. They're all important, but the focus of this introductory unit subject, we're just going to focus on the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander histories and cultures. but please don't think that that means these others aren't equally as important. But you will cover those in future subjects. So those are the 3 priorities which I mentioned. Activity 3, there is a very short video, it's only a couple of minutes. It's just a little introduction of what the significance of incorporating Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander histories and cultures into the curriculum is. Why is that significant for us? And then there's a document to download from the curriculum as well. This is outlining the principles, the guiding principles for how do we implement this in the curriculum. So you'll find in that document some things. This is a very brief summary, it's much more detailed than this. There are key concepts that we should be focusing on in the classroom. So I've listed some of those there, but I want you to go and read the article yourself and take note. What are the key things as a teacher we need to know ourselves and incorporate into our teaching and learning for our students? And to be honest, if you haven't had any experience in a school or any kind of context in the community that's involved people from this background, then maybe your knowledge is not sufficient at this point to be in the classroom and teaching others about it. So this is a really good chance for us to update ourselves and get familiar with some significant information about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures and histories. What does it mean for HASS? You can read through that. And finally, for activity 3, I would like you to watch this video from an example of how it's on a bigger scale within a school, not just focusing on HASS or, as specifically as we are, but it gives you an idea of what this might look like in a school context. Finally, there's just a little touch on assessment task 3. I haven't gone into a great deal of detail because I'm going to do that next week. I realise that you've still got task 2 to complete, but I just want you to start thinking about this. Read through the outline and start thinking about one subject, whether it be geography, history, or civics and citizenship, that you will choose, and an inquiry question you will plan some lessons around. And what could those 5 lessons be that focus on the 5 stages of inquiry? Some practical information there. You will need to submit a PowerPoint presentation. So this is a presentation as well as submitting a copy of your PowerPoint presentation and a very brief 600-word rationale that justifies why you've chosen the inquiry process and the types of activities that you choose. It will also need to explain what the biblical perspective is within at least one of those lessons. Okay. Here's a little guide, if you like, on how to get started, starting to plan and think about this next assessment task. But like I said, don't worry too much. I'll go over this again and in more detail next week. And a few dates for you just to check in your diaries that you've got these locked in. So that's just a summary for this week and what's required, but as always, please email or get in touch if you have any questions. Thank you.